to see you all out tonight. My name is Mark Holland, the mayor here in Kansas City, Kansas, and I appreciate you coming out for the 8th district, which is the 8th listening tour event. And we're going to talk a little bit about what this is about, but first I want to give some recognition. First, this wouldn't be possible without my staff. I've got a great team at the city. If you've called up to the office, you've probably spoken with one of them. But I want to thank Maureen Mahoney, Rachel Boteo, Jason Banks, Bill Hurlbrink, Lindsay Begum, and Lucas Behrens. All of them have worked very hard to help make this work. So if you wonder who mailed out everything and who put the packets together and who organized it, that's the group. I also want to thank all of our volunteer facilitators who have come out, many of them multiple times, to help keep the conversation going. I very much appreciate that and appreciate all of you for the work that you've done. I also want to recognize some of the commissioners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the commissioners. I'm going to give them an opportunity to greet you. And then I'm going to come up and frame the evening a little bit in terms of what we're doing. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Doug Bach. Doug Bach is our county administrator, and he's the guy that runs the city. I just show up at the podium, but if you wonder who's doing it and getting the good work done that we do in our city, it's Doug Bach. I'm very appreciative of his leadership in our community. So I want to introduce, there are 3 commissioners here. I'm going to give each of them an opportunity to say hello. Commissioner Townsend is the District 1 Commissioner. Would you like to greet the group? Come on up, because your district's very close to here.
Good evening, District 8, and everyone else who is a member of any district in the unified government. I thought it was important that I be here tonight. It started back about May 25th, somewhere in that time, with District 1. It was a great turnout, and I said then, as I will share with you, the main thing is that you are here participating. That means everything. There's no right, no wrong answer. We just want to know what's on your mind. So, greetings to you all. This is a border. People don't realize how close or how far west District 1 extends. So I'm at about 57th, 58th, and there's a little sliver that actually goes to 60th. But it's been great working with the other commissioners and Commissioner Philbrook. Sometimes I get her calls, she gets mine, but we're unified government, so the thing is we work it out. Season's greetings to you, and thank you again for coming and for your participation. Thank you, Mayor, for setting this up, and for all of the volunteers who have come not only tonight, but on numerous times. We're at the end of the road. Thank you.
Next, I want to introduce our at-large commissioner. At-large District 1 is Melissa Bynum. This was the seat that I held for 6 years, and now Melissa Bynum is serving ably in that role. And Commissioner, if you would greet us as well.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out and participating. I think Commissioner Townsend is well spoken. We're so glad you're here. The key is to participate. The reason Mayor Holland and his staff have done all this work and put all this effort into putting these events together is for the sole purpose of hearing from you. So I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we couldn't be happier to see you here participating. We will walk around and visit the groups as you move into your breakout sessions, and we'll be listening for the comments that you're making, and we'll be very interested in what you have to say. I know the mayor will explain this further, but your comments will be aggregated with those of the 7 previous districts that we have visited, and we will have a good overall picture of what the community is asking for. So again, thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll look forward to visiting with you when you move into your small groups. Thank you.
And saved the in-district commissioner for last. Commissioner Philbrook is your 8th district commissioner. And Commissioner, if you'd like to come greet the group.
So I'm not surprised to see a lot of faces here, and I recognize most of them because this district is one active district. There's a whole lot of community leaders here and a whole lot of people that stay involved. So I'm happy to see you here, and I know that a lot of the things that you're going to hear about, you've heard about before already because you are involved. So I think that we need to show the mayor and the rest of the commissioners what a great group we are in District 8 and really tell them what you want and be very nice to each other. That's all I ask. Thanks, guys.
All right, before I get started, I do have one special presentation. If we could have Jeff Bryant come up here for a minute. Jeff Bryant is an elected member of the Board of Public Utilities, and he has also attended to help facilitate these groups. But Jeff Bryant has the distinction of being the only one who has perfect attendance at all 8. So either he needs more to do, and or he's a great community servant, and as an elected official coming out to participate in this has done a great job. So let's give all of our facilitators, but especially Jeff, a big hand. And Jeff, I even have a certificate suitable for framing for your perfect attendance. We're on a budget. We're not buying frames with $12 million. So, all right. I want to talk about a little bit about tonight and how it came to be, and to give us an idea about the balance we're trying to find. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with the paying off of the STAR bonds and the $12 million that's coming to our community because of that. So I'm going to take some time and spend a little bit of time about how we came about this. The STAR bonds stand for Sales Tax Revenue Bonds. Sales Tax Revenue Bonds are an incentive package that is unique in the state of Kansas, and they were developed by the Kansas legislature in order to encourage tourism to Kansas. The idea is a STAR bond project has to be a project of at least $50 million of investment, but also a project that's going to draw people from outside of the state so that we would capture sales tax that we would not otherwise get. So it has to build an amenity to bring people from somewhere else. So you can't, for instance, build a Target with STAR bonds because a Target, most of the people who shop at Target are people that live around it, right? Walmart's the same way. So, and you can't like build a grocery store with STAR bonds, though I wish we could. But the STAR bonds are specifically designated for tourist destinations. It was a brand new tool in 1999, or in 1997. In 1997, the citizens of this county voted overwhelmingly to unify the government, the city and county, to create the unified government. Really a huge step forward for our community. Right after that, NASCAR was looking to expand into the region. And Wyandotte County immediately said, we'll do it. And they said, well, we're going to talk to Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri said no, and we said, we'll do it. They said, well, we're going to talk to Johnson County. Well, Johnson County said no, and we said, we'll do it. And they said, well, I think we're going to look north of the river. So they talked north of the river, and they didn't want it. And we said, we'll do it. And they said, okay. So here they came to what was then about 150 homes. You may remember, most of those were purchased, 120 of those were purchased, and then the remaining, I forget the exact number, went to condemnation, which is a very difficult sell in a community, is it not? Not only to condemn private property, but to use it for private investment. In fact, we have someone here, we have a veteran of this. Commissioner Philbrook was one of the homes that I believe went to condemnation. One of the last holdouts? Yeah, next to last. So if you want a tenacious commissioner, you have one. Amen? But that if you think about that development out west, at that time, those 150 homes paid about $200,000 annually in property taxes. And for sales tax, do you remember what was out there before? There was a gas station, a liquor store, and a Kentucky Fried. And all the jobs that went with it, right? Fast forward to today, the Village West area represents 10% of the total valuation of our community. That group pays collectively over $12 million annually in property taxes. There's a myth that nobody out there is paying property taxes. That's actually not true. Only the Speedway is not paying property taxes. They have a 30-year tax abatement. Every other property out there is paying full property taxes. We receive $12 million a year already in property taxes. There are now 9,000 jobs in Village West, and we have about $650 million in annual sales. Well, those annual sales, every time you buy something, do you shop the Legends? I do. You pay sales tax, and we're all glad to do it, amen? And when you pay that sales tax goes to pay off the STAR bonds because they're sales tax revenue bonds. And those sales tax dollars were invested in that project. There were about $450 million worth of sales tax dollars invested out there. That $450 million leveraged another $1.5 billion in private dollar investment. So for every $1 in public money in sales tax, we receive $3 of private investment, a pretty good return on investment. Well, now those sales tax bonds that help build the infrastructure out there are about to pay off, and the state will get the bulk of it. The other thing I love about STAR bonds is the bulk of the money is paid by the state, because your sales tax dollars, about 2/3 of it goes to the state, and about 1/3 goes to our local community. So of this $450 million in STAR bonds, the state paid about $30 million of the $300 million, and we paid about $150 million. Again, a 2-to-1 investment for the city of Kansas City, Kansas, because of the state's investment in it. Those bonds are paying off. The state will receive about $40 or $50 million, and we're going to receive about $12 million. And that $12 million is why we're here today, because it's an investment that this community made 17 years ago in order to have a return on the investment. And I think on our postcard it said windfall, and I've been corrected several times. That should say return on investment, because a windfall is just something that pops out of the sky, right? This is money that the citizens of Wyandotte County invested, and it's our return that we are due, yes? So that $12 million is coming, and what you need to decide is how we need to invest that. And I prefer invest over spend, because I don't want, the line to spend it has already formed, so you need not get in that line. What we need to do is make a good decision about how to best invest this. And there are several categories that you will see. The categories that you'll see came out of a citizen survey about the things that are the most important to Wyandotte County citizens. We're actually doing another survey that's coming out in February, January or February. It's after the first of the year. And it'll be a random sampling of residents, and we'll get additional information in that. But those questions, the topics you'll see tonight, came straight out of the citizen survey of Wyandotte County. So they came from citizens' feedback. What I want you to do is look at those and think about how to best invest this. Now, before we get too excited, I think $12 million is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. The challenge we have is we have a $300 million budget. So it represents about 4% of our total budget. So I don't want anyone to think it's going to change the whole world, but what it can do is make a difference in specific areas. And that's where we need help prioritizing. Because we have about 5 different buckets that we could put all $12 million and still need more. We could put $12 million just in our streets and sidewalks, and we'd need more. We could put $12 million into catching up on salaries with the unified government employees who have been frozen for so long, and we still would be behind. We could put all $12 million into restoring our fund balances. We'd still need help. We could put all $12 million into our sewers. In fact, there's really apparently an unlimited amount of money you can invest in sewers. And you want to talk about money that feels like you're flushing it down the toilet? That would be it. We do millions of dollars of sewer projects every day, and you can't see them. At least when we do State Avenue and put in the medians, you can see it, right? So we have a lot of areas where we could invest this money, and we need to figure out the balance. Another place is property tax reduction. I don't know if you all are aware, we have the highest property taxes in the region. We send you that memo every year. Do you receive that memo? The goal, obviously, when the Star Bond investment was made, was to reduce our property taxes. So what I want you to think about is when you're investing this money, you can invest the money one time, or you can invest the money year after year after year, because we're going to get this $12 million every year. So here's how I want you to think about it. It's the same at home. If you have $100 and you put it towards a car payment, I'd love to have a car payment of $100, wouldn't you? Okay, let's say we had $500, you're making a car payment. You commit that $500 for a car payment, that $500 is spent every month until it's paid off, right? If we commit a portion of this money to debt financing something, if you invest $1 million of this into debt financing, that $1 million is spent for 20 years. And then next year we have $11 million to make a decision about. If you decide to use some to reduce property taxes, say you invest $5 million in reducing property taxes, that money is committed forever, right? And so next year we have $7 million to think about because $5 million has been committed to property tax relief. If you invest money, though, in a cash project to rebuild a street, so State Avenue from 78th Street to 94th Street, the last edition of State Avenue that we did, was a $4.5 million project. What? You pay cash for that. Next year you can do another $4.5 million project. You see what I'm saying? You've spent it once, but you can spend it again next year because it was cash funded and that money is going to come back to us and you've not committed it over time. The other piece that's important, I want to talk about property taxes, because if you invest $1 million in property tax relief to lower your mill levy, $1 million in property tax relief translates to a home worth $100,000. The average home in Wyandotte County, the median home value in Wyandotte County is between $85,000 and $95,000. But if you took a $100,000 home and you put $1 million of property tax relief against it, it would save that homeowner $14 a year. Now, if we put all $12 million against property tax reduction, right, all of it, it would save a homeowner of a $100,000 house about $150 a year if we put all the money in one place. And it would be committed over time, and you couldn't make a decision the next year. It would already be spent. So our challenge is, how do we reduce our mill levy, and how do we invest in the other services that we need? And you get to be in the commission. And a lot of people said, wow, this is really hard. And I want to say, welcome to our world, because it is really hard. But it's also a great opportunity, and the input we've had has been great. What I do want to do is give you a little history about why the property taxes in Wyandotte County are so high. Have you ever asked yourself that? Oh, yes. Yes, you have. And I pay them too, and so I ask the same question. So I'll give you a little bit of history, and I always preface it with this: explanation, not excuse. There's a difference, yes? So the explanation is in part this. In 1950, Wyandotte County was the largest city in the state of Kansas. In 1960, we had 185,000 people. From 1960 to 2000, there was a national phenomenon that hit every urban area in America, often called white flight. And in Kansas City, Kansas, of the 185,000 people who lived here, 60,000 white people moved out. That's nearly a third of the population moved out of the city. 30,000 people of other ethnicities moved in, fortunately, but we still had a net loss of 20% of our population. And with a net loss of 20% of our population, we went from 20% above the median household income in the state to 20% below the median household income. Also, with 30,000 fewer people, that's about 10,000 empty homes. And what happens to an empty home? It begins to fall down. Any of you have one of those in your neighborhood? Yes? The other thing that happens is Economics 101, supply and demand. There are more houses on the market that can be sold. All of the home values come down in the area, and the overall valuation in the community goes down. And it turns out it costs the same amount of money to pave a street that has $250,000 houses on it as it does to pave a street with $50,000 houses on it. The difference is it takes 5 $50,000 houses to make as much money as one $250,000 house makes. So when you have the decrease in value in our community, you have a loss of revenue. And over those 40 years, the government gradually inched up the mill rate in order to capture some, but not all of that loss. To give you an idea of valuation, the entire county of Wyandotte County has a value of about $1 billion with a B. $1 billion is our total value of all properties, commercial, retail, and housing in our whole county. Johnson County, by comparison, has a total value of their residences and commercial areas of $8 billion. What? So 8 times the value, which means their mill levy can be less because even a lower mill levy captures more money on higher valued properties. You see the dilemma? The best thing that can happen is for our property values to go up. Now, here's my experience with people. You're people, right? Here's my experience with people. People want their value of their house to go up the week before they sell it. Amen? And not any other time. So the dilemma is we want our values to go up. If we were able to magically double the value of our properties, all properties in Wyandotte County, we could cut our mill levy in half, and you would pay the same amount. You'd pay half the taxes, but you'd pay the same amount of taxes. If we cut it in half, if it doubled and we cut it in half, you'd pay the same amount of taxes, but your house would be worth a lot more. The goal is to grow the valuation of our city, and one of the ways we do that is get rid of these falling down properties. And one of the things about these falling down properties is we now own, as your unified government, 6,000 empty lots. And if you'll agree to mow one, I'll give you one tonight. Because guess how much money we currently put in the bank to mow the vacant lots that we own as unified government? 0. That's why they look like they do. It's very expensive to mow 6,000 lots. The other thing, and I could cry you a river, the absentee landlord is the bane of every urban area in America. And an absentee landlord is not just about geography, it's about mindset, is it not? Because I've seen people next door watch the house fall down. The absentee landlord has decimated our retail, commercial, and residential properties in Kansas City, Kansas. They've taken the wealth out of our community and most often gone somewhere else. The absentee landlords are a huge problem. So addressing these myriad problems that we have in our community, all is a bit of history to say, here's where we are now. The good news is, since 2010, we've had the first net growth in Wyandotte County in 50 years. And we have a great gift in that we have one of the most diverse communities in the entire nation. Only Broward County, Florida has the same diversity as Wyandotte County. We have no ethnic majority, and both major ethnic groups, minority groups, are over 25%. We're about 40% white, 28% Latino, and 26% African American. We have something that young families want today. If you'd ask people in 1960, is diversity good? They said no. You ask people now, young people now, they'll say, yes, I want to live in a growing, diverse community. Don't ask Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I just leaped off. It was just sitting there and I just jumped in. I apologize. I apologize. Darn it. But we have a community that I'm proud of, and I'm proud to raise my family in. My family and I live at 78th and Parallel, and they're 78th and Parallel. And my church is right down the church that I pastor, Trinity Community Church, a United Methodist congregation at 51st and Parallel. I drive by here every day, though I often go I-70 now to City Hall because I have a little detour now on my way to the church. But it's a privilege for me to serve this community. I'm very grateful. I'm 4th generation here, 3rd generation pastor in Kansas City, Kansas. And I'm very proud of our city, and I'm very proud to come out and have an opportunity to talk to you all about the opportunity that we have in Kansas City, Kansas. Last year, Wyandotte County produced 30% of all new jobs in the state of Kansas. We have 5% of the population. We created 30% of the new jobs. We've had nearly $1 billion in economic investment this year alone. We're working to be more innovative. We're working on healthy communities. We're working on a lot of things that make a difference in our community. The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll let you split into groups. I've been working very hard. You may have heard about my initiative with the Department of Justice on hiring for public safety. In 2013, 9 months before Ferguson, I might add, I saw the hiring practice in our fire department and raised some questions about all of our public safety. I brought in the Department of Justice, and I brought in a 40-member panel of the community to look at the recruiting, hiring, and promoting of minorities and women in all 3 public safety departments. The Sheriff's Department reflects the diversity in the rest of the unified government. The Police Department is half that diversity, and the Fire Department is half of that. And I don't know if you have a firefighter in this city makes $55,000 a year, average, plus benefits. Why aren't our kids clamoring for these jobs? That's almost double the median household income in Kansas City, Kansas. We need to get our kids in these great jobs. I can't ask KU, General Motors, and Cerner to hire locally if the unified government isn't modeling this behavior. So we put together a task force. They came up with 35 recommendations. The commission overwhelmingly approved it. All the commissioners here approved it, overwhelmingly approved it, and we have put it in the budget for this coming year to improve our recruiting, our hiring, and our promoting of the folks in our community. I believe if we hire local, we're going to get the diversity we expect. So I'm very proud of that initiative, but that's an example of the kind of innovative things we're trying to do to connect our citizens to these jobs. So that's my introduction. The next thing you're going to do on your name tag, you have a number. That number is your small group. The goal of the small groups is you'll go and you have a facilitator there who have all gone through training. They're all volunteers. And you will go to your small group and they will pass out a sheet with all kinds of different services in the unified government. You get to fill out how you want to spend $12 million or invest $12 million. You don't have to spend it. You can invest it. How we want to invest $12 million, and then you're going to have to come to a consensus with your group, just like the commission does. So you might disagree with each other, and it's been a great dialogue, but I want you to talk with your neighbors and come to a conclusion about how to best invest this $12 million. All of the information you give, every individual response is recorded and actually put on the internet without names. It's just individual responses. You can go right now to wicokck.org, our city website. There's a picture of me. You can click. Please click gently on my face, but you can click right there on my face. If you want to bypass the clicking, you can just type wicokck.org/listen. But if you like to click, you can click right there. And it'll pull up the listening tour, and you can see all the comments. It'll take a couple weeks to get this one online. It takes a couple weeks after every one to get them up online because my staff does it all. It might be after the holiday, right? Because we only have 2 weeks till Christmas. So it might be after the holiday, but we'll get this one up online, and then you will be sent, whether by email or regular mail, the results of this listening tour, and you will receive the combined result from all the listening tours. So you will receive all of that, and it will be on the website. So you will also be given an evaluation tonight. Those have been the first 3 were very helpful because we got to change stuff for the next ones. I want your feedback on how you thought this went, though we're not having another one, so I don't want you to think we're going to change anything. But I do want your evaluation nevertheless, so please fill it out.
Now, wait a minute. You don't know you'll never have another one.
Well, no, that's right. We're actually talking about because these have been so successful, but nevertheless. So that's the story. So that's the end of my conversation. This is my opportunity now, and for all of us to listen to you. So if you would go to your group and enjoy yourself, we'll come back and we'll share all the group's input before we go home tonight. Thank you. Today from the Unified Government that we sold the theater at the Legends 14 Theater. When we built the Legends, no company would build a theater because they said you'll never make any money out there. Well, it's been so successful that we just sold it to the owners of the Legends, the Red Development, and we've signed a new leasing agreement with AMC to make it the new AMC, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So they're going to invest, the contract calls for them to invest $5 million in the next year to bring it up to date. And they're going to, they signed a commitment to keep it a movie theater for at least the next 10 years. So really a good win for all of us. So I'm pretty excited about that. And so I'll tell you this little story. So when I was first elected commissioner, I didn't know that we owned the theater. Did you know we owned the theater? Who knew? Well, I'm glad we don't. I'm glad the private sector is taking it back, right? But we owned the theater. And when I was first elected, because they have a liquor license there, they sell liquor, the board of trustees of that corporation that owned it had to be cleared by the state liquor group. So my first task when I was elected, here's this pastor coming in to be a commissioner, and I had to sign off on a liquor license like the first week I was in office. So I'm glad I don't have to sign off on the liquor license anymore at the theater. All right, so we're going to have, Group 7 was bragging that they finished first. Is Group 7 ready to report?
They're not up here.
Oh, they're not up here for it.
8 was first.
Okay, let's have 8 come on up.
All right.
Yay for 8, all right. We had a really good session, a good group. I think this group had 2 major concerns. They were concerned that we needed to have more programs for youth that actually worked with our youth from K all the way up so that we could begin to train them in skills and career and citizenship and those type of programs. And then they also had a real concern about our police and our firemen and the ability to keep up with the attrition and retirement that's occurring and being able to have enough officers on duty. So those were major concerns as they were thinking about where they would put that $12 million. With that in mind, they were very agreeable as they worked this out, which was fun to work with. But they would put $1 million in property tax relief, no money with demolitions at this time, but $1 million with code enforcement, $1 million with street resurfacing, $1 million with mowing the vacant lots, $1 million with snow removal, plowing, and treatment, $1 million with aging services, none with personal property at this time, but $1 million with park improvements, $1.5 million for police services, and for $1.5 million for fire services, and then they would put $2 million of that in the other category for youth services that they would like. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. And I know we are not doing team names, but if I had to give our team a name, it would probably be Democracy in Action. We had a really great conversation, and the group actually helped us out, Janelle and myself, out a lot in terms of process, and helped actually shape the process that we use to move from the broader list and their individual allocations to what we've got in front of you. So I'll quickly read through these. Under property tax relief, we've got $3 million. Under demolition of residential and commercial properties, $860,000. Under code enforcement, $260,000. And I'll note that we ended up using averages, so that counts for the odd numbers. Under street resurfacing, $1 million. Under mowing of vacant lots, $540,000. Under snow removal, plowing, and treatment, $660,000.
And under aging services, we had $900,000. The personal property registration at courthouse or annex is $100,000. Parks improvements, $1.3 million. Police services, $1 million. Fire services, $1.1 million. And then we had a few other categories that they wanted to distribute the remainder of, since we hadn't quite hit the 12 million mark. So what was left was $426,000 each for salary increases, sidewalks, and city transportation.
Thanks, Team One.
Good evening. I had the pleasure to facilitate group number 2. We had a great discussion, a lot of great ideas. I find we usually have a lot of discussion in our other ideas in the other categories, that those are always fun to hear. So I'll share with you all of our other categories at the end. As we go through the list, we first started off not allocating any money to property tax relief or demo. We had $1 million that we were trying to figure out what to do with, so we ended up spreading it between code enforcement, mowing vacant lots, and snow removal. We looked at $1 million for street resurfacing, $2 million for our aging services, $2 million on park improvements, with the idea, we had the suggestion that someone drives from Kansas City, Kansas to go to Kansas City, Missouri, paying $3 a day to utilize their fitness centers. We need to focus more on fitness centers within our Parks and Rec department and community centers, so folks can have personal trainers, folks can utilize exercise equipment here in Kansas City, Kansas, and not have to travel to Kansas City, Missouri. $2 million to police services, specifically for new cruisers, better equipment for our police department. $2 million additional dollars to our fire services. We also settled on $4 million in our other category. The ideas that we specifically allocated money for were $2 million to a initiative that would house our homeless veterans into unified government-owned properties. We would like to see them taken off the street, taken care for, rehabilitated, and we feel that would help the Healthy Communities Wyandotte initiative. Also, $2 million into the court system with the idea of an amnesty program to help folks take care of fees, with the example, if you have a $300 fee, but you only have $150, those folks would be able to pay $150. Our court system would have that fund to dip into to pay the other $150. Your fine would be paid. You'd be able to get your license or whatever it is that you needed to conduct business or to look for employment. $1 million and $1 million? I apologize, I wrote down the wrong number. I was $1 million and $1 million. Anyway, our other categories that we talked about were better drainage systems on Leavenworth Road and Parallel. Folks had noted that when they drive through there in heavy rain, it doesn't drain properly or good enough. We also had one suggestion, just to invest all $12 million the first year, just invest it all, and then next year we'll have $24 million, and we'll have interest. So let's use that interest to fund new projects or needed service. Also noted a storm relief fund, so if folks have fallen limbs that damage parts of their property, the unified government is able to help with repairs, and that's what we came up with. We've been doing this since May, and the mayor hasn't said go Royals yet, so I just wanted to say go Royals. Thanks.
Hi, my name is James, and I am here to represent group number 3, and I'm going to ask group number 3 if you just wave your hands or stand. And this is the power group, the high energy group, to Mayor Holland and to all of the commissioners. I just thoroughly enjoy this listening tour, just very inspiring and very uplifting. I'm here to represent our group when they were looking for, and our facilitator, Lucia, did an amazing job walking through the presentation. But I'm here to represent group number 3. When they asked for volunteers, I was the one that did not make eye contact, and so they chose me to represent the group. But on our proposed budget, we decided to designate $2 million for property tax relief, $1.5 million to demolitions, residential and commercial properties, $300,000 code enforcement, $1 million goes to street resurfacing, $300,000 for taking care of mowing of vacant lots. We had a lot of discussion around that. $600,000 for snow removal, etc. $1 million for aging services. At this time, we didn't dedicate any monies to the auto registration program. Park improvements, $1.5 million. Police services, $600,000. Fire services, $1 million. In other, we had some good discussion around the need for putting some monies aside for mental health. So we designated $2 million for that. And last but not least, we kept $200,000 in reserves. And that's our report for today. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Jeff Bryant, all 8 listening tours. Thank you. As he says, I've been at all of them, and it's given me an opportunity to hear from a lot of the people in our city. Tonight's group was very unique. I don't know if you can see their chart over there, but they started out with money in just about every category, as I've seen in all the other listening tours. And they whittled out quite a few of the categories. They actually removed money from 5 different categories and put 0 in it so that they could add more money to one specific category. So let's get to it here. $1.5 million toward demolition, $2.4 million for street resurfacing, $300,000 for mowing vacant lots, $1 million added to aging services, $1.05 million for park improvements, and other $5.5 million. They would like to see the majority of that money go to reserves and to public transit. They would like to see additional, routes in our city for buses, because they believe that the ones that we have right now are spread out too far apart, and the number of buses that are traveling down them are too far and too sporadic, so it makes it difficult for people to move from the east to the west side of our cities. So I'd like to really thank this group. They really opened my eyes to quite a few things. Thank you all very much.
I was also volunteer. My name is Emma Fonseca. I represent group number 10, Jerry Jones. He did a fantastic job. Let's give him a hand. And like everybody up to this point, we share similar things, which is very interesting in the diversity that we have in this community. This is the results on our proposed budget for the mayor and the commissioners. Property tax relief, $2.5 million. Demolition, $1 million. Code enforcement, $400,000. Street resurfacing, $1.5 million. Mowing the vacant lots, $275,000. Snow removal, $1 million. Aging services, where I work at, hidden agenda, as I told the group, $1.125 million. Personal property, $50,000. Park improvement, $625,000. Police services, $1.025 million. Fire services, $1.5 million. And when we discussed about the other, at first we didn't have any idea. So I started thinking, ooh, BPU, UG charges was one of those. Then we talked about the USD 500, and then homeless services and youth services. So we decide as a group, we mentioned 2. The youth services, $500,000, and homeless services, $500,000 each. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Rebecca. I'm representing Group 9, the mighty 3 people in Group 9. Thank you so much. There was a lot of really, really good discussion, so I thank you all. So we started with property tax relief, and we actually started higher, but we got down to $1.6 million because we said that even we need relief, there needs to be a relief in that property tax, but there's a lot of need in Wyandotte County, and so we moved some of that money around. We put $2 million in demolition, $100,000 in code enforcement, $3 million in street resurfacing, saying that there are a lot of bad streets in Wyandotte County that we need to get taken care of, and we need a lot of sidewalks as well. $200,000 in mowing vacant lots, $1 million in snow removal, $1 million in aging services, and we need better transit for our aging population and some opportunities to feed and with better food for our aging population. $1 million in parks improvements, and there was a really great conversation about parks, and we need walking paths and more amenities in our parks, and particularly spread out evenly across the community, that the eastern half of Wyandotte County really needs to see some improvement in their parks specifically. We put $400,000 in police services, $700,000 in fire services, particularly the infrastructure. And then thank you, Fred, for saying some great other categories. And there were 3 extra categories that we added. After school tutoring, $300,000. Special needs assistance services would be $300,000, and then also some entrepreneurship grants for youth to start businesses and enter into the business community. We put $400,000. Thank you all.
Hello, I had the pleasure of working with Group 5. We had a lot of different ideas and themes that came about in our group discussion. However, it whittled down to only 2. We felt very strongly about property tax relief, so we decided to allocate $10 million to property tax relief. And there were a couple of reasons that we felt so strongly, or our group felt so strongly about giving $10 million or allocating $10 million to property tax relief. Our group thought that it would also draw more businesses, prospective investors, and also help the residents that currently live in Wyandotte County with their property taxes. One of our group members vocalized that she actually had an increase of $150 for her property taxes this year. And it would be really tremendous if she could have that burden lifted off of her. And so our group came to a consensus that it would be important to have that money allocated toward property tax relief. The second service that we felt very strongly about as a group was with BPU and the pilot tax. The pilot tax is payment in lieu of the taxes. Thank you. And our group decided to allocate $2 million for relief to the residents in Wyandotte County. So those were the 2 areas we felt very strongly about allocating funds toward. And that would in turn draw more prospective investors into Wyandotte County, have more businesses here, and we would also save money for our residents. They would be able to spend that money on other things in Wyandotte County to build up the sales tax as well. So that's what we decided.
Hi, I'm Kim, and I worked with group number 7. There was only 4 of us, but we had a pretty good discussion, mostly about education. And we kind of put a little bit of money everywhere. So property tax relief, we put $1 million. Demolitions, $1 million. Code enforcement, $150,000. Street resurfacing, $500,000. Mowing vacant lots, $500,000. Snow removal, $450,000. Aging services, $500,000. Auto registration, $1 million. Park improvements, $500,000. Police services, $2 million. Fire services, $2 million. And then other, we had education and homelessness. And since they felt very strongly that education needed more funding, they said $3 million for education and $1 million towards homelessness.
That's right, because I think we had the biggest group. This was group number 6. So our group allocated $2 million for property tax relief, $1 million for demolitions, $500,000 for code enforcement. And there was a lot of discussion about how increasing those things could lead to actually more people wanting to move to the community. $2 million in street resurfacing with a focus on curb and sidewalk. $300,000 for mowing, $200,000 for snow removal, and they talked a lot about getting kids to school. $1 million for aging services, and there was a focus on an emphasis on transportation. For personal property tax,
For personal property registration, it was $100,000, $500,000 for parks improvement, $800,000 for police, $1 million for fire. And then there was some additional comments that throughout the entire discussion, there was a lot of emphasis on savings. So they allocated their other category to savings. We also had a lot of interest in putting an additional $2 million into sewers. And there was a lot of discussion about what can be invested, that there's a flexibility to look at the current situation in the future and reinvest in other items as time goes on.
All right, well, that concludes the program tonight. I can't thank you all enough for taking time out of your evening to come and to share your input on this. The commission takes this input very seriously. To have an opportunity for these kind of workshops where people think through the issues and get into some of the difficulty that we have up on the commission of trying to figure out how to allocate this money, and to share that with the citizens, we really appreciate your input. Again, you will receive a copy of the input from this session and the tally of all of them and kind of in a conglomerate of all 8 sessions. That material is for the first 7 is already on the website at wicokck.org. You can view that now. But really, we're going to continue to push this out. And in the spring, we will go into our strategic plan. This will be one piece of information that we take in terms of allocating it, because next summer is when we will vote on the 2017 budget that will allocate this money. So your timing is excellent. It's a very important conversation for all of us. But I just want to thank you again for coming out and for the opportunity to visit with you and to hear your input. So have a great evening and a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.